Ah yes, television. The concept of many different shows for many different people on many different channels and networks seemed to be an amazing and wondrous concept at the time, where random content could be selected from a plethora of different channels that meet the need of every unique person viewing them. However, with the rise of streaming services, radio streams, and other methods of gaining content, television just seems a bit old-fashioned towards the next generations of people. However, back in the 90s, one channel in the UK actually helped to reform and might have defined a whole generation of adults that is slowly becoming responsible towards every threat towards our planet. And that channel is none other than FlexTech's teen-oriented channel, Trouble.
But first of all, we would like to reintroduce you back into FlexTech. FlexTech was a large multi-channeled network that had several other channels catering to many different crowds of people under their belt. One of them, which was Player, we talked about in a previous episode, so go check that out if you haven't already, or if you have a brain span of a goldfish. Anyway, around the time of 1996, the idea of a new channel from the then still running children's channel, TCC, short for the Children's Channel, was spawned up from their late afternoon schedule, which is aimed to target audiences of a more mature and reckless crowd of people.
So, are they friends or not?
And when Bravo rebranded to target a more masculine audience and became a nighttime exclusive channel in 1997, a new programming block for teenagers was used to fill up the channel's space in the afternoons, running from 12 noon up until 8 at night. And that block became known as Trouble. Trouble, a teen-based programming block filling up Bravo's afternoon slot, aimed to target what they defined as the troublesome generation, which are basically 10 to 26-year-old teenagers with more colours on their hair than a light-up keyboard and more rings on their face than Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog. Trouble hoped to reach their demographic by providing them with American-made and Australian-made programming, some of which had never been seen on UK TV before, such as The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Yeah, that's about the only thing that they're actually known for at this point, which is kind of sad. But they also add some other stuff, like Dawson's Creek, that goddamn motherfucking annoyance ball 70s show, and Hollyoaks, among many others which I can't even be bothered to quickly Google at this point. The programming block deemed to be very successful, so by April of 1998, TCC's operations in the UK and Ireland actually closed down to allow for Trouble to expand their horizons from a small titty programming block on Bravo to a full 24-hour channel, targeting towards teenagers, young adults, and of course, the troublesome generation, which at this point was kind of being the more intolerable of people. So yeah, no wonder why they expanded their horizons. And as the 90s drew to a close and the dawn of a new millennia arose, Trouble hoped to provide its demographic and their audience to something new, sleek, refreshing, and iconic.
Now, what shows were there on the channel targeted at teens? They can't just say any old shite, you know, this isn't ITV2. Well, Trouble had the first lineup of shows that were mostly imports. Sitcoms like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air starring Will Smith and his wife.
Keep my wife's...
Actually, we've already done that joke. There was also Marisha, which you can now find kicking about on Trace Vault. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which also aired on Bravo at the time. In addition, they also had a show called Trouble Homegrown, which they showcased clips sent in by viewers. Think of it as a more lowbrow version of Sumo TV and MTV Flux. Amongst that were other shows that were exclusive to Trouble, such as Half and Half, Grounded for Life, My So-Called Life, One on One, The Secret Life of Us, Dance 360, Gary the Rat, and even
the soil he did crawl, a super suit did fall,
which has the greatest fucking cartoon theme song ever, Don't At Me. Among those shows, Trouble has also had many changes towards their overall look across its 12-year run, with the first one from 1997 primarily being the first thing they think of when it comes to the channel. The channel branding was mostly focused towards relating with their demographic, with an accompanying vibe of feeling like you, the viewer, are in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Later, in 2001, the branding changed yet again to a more simpler and pseudo-futuristic style that isn't really as well documented as the others, since it was at the time where Trouble didn't have a fucking clearing presentation. Then, in 2005, the logo changed it again to a more modern, yet hip look that didn't really set well for a teens channel and felt more like a bootleg reimagining of the CBBC ident from 2007. But, amongst that, they still had their own charm, of feeling less like Trouble and more like another average kids channel.
We gotta kick it. We gotta kick it. Show you right. We gotta
The biggest names in Kung Fu movies, kicking off in one place. Player presents Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon. Kung Fu Classics starts tonight at 10, exclusively on Player.
Later on Trouble, Will Smith decides that he wants to be a fishing star in a shitty DreamWorks film in an all-new Fresh Prince. But now let's get back to the forgetful channels. Around 2006, despite the many new shows and interesting ideas that Trouble had going to it, the channel couldn't seem to have grasped the ever-changing attention of the larger demographic, mostly teens and young adults. As by 2008, among many channel slot changes throughout the last few years of its life and the forums of their website being visited less and less, yes, they had forums on their website, shut up, it seems Trouble couldn't last another well-deserved year of broadcasting. Trouble was in trouble at this point. As by April Fool's Day of 2009, the channel sadly closed down to make way for a second time shift channel for a living. Talk about a cold joke. Why did the channel close down, you may ask? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a few factors. Fear factor. Firstly, after the sudden switch from the channel's electric programming guide slot from 6:07 to 2:01 on Sky, viewership began to drop as most people assumed that the channel was removed and then people then forgot the channel altogether. Secondly, the shutdown happened because, as stated earlier, the channel tried to garner the attention of more teens and young adults by introducing more tamer and otherwise lackluster shitcoms and content. The channel really felt very robotized at this point, despite Trouble Homegrown still being around at this time. The teens who watched the channel originally back when they first launched have already grown up to watch other shows on other channels such as Living, Bravo and even Virgin 1. They've outgrown Trouble at this point, and Virgin Media Television felt like it might have outgrown the channel itself.
For the 12 years that Trouble was up, it managed to garner a large group of teenage young adults across the UK and was a leading pop culture factor in teen culture back in the mid-2000s. According to the FlexTech website back in 2006, the channel was the third most watched channel amongst teenagers, just shy of E4 and MTV, and for a channel like this with such strong and intense competition, it's actually worth applauding and worth congratulating as well. Despite the channel only lasting for a dozen years, Trouble is actually still quite fondly remembered across the group of people who grew up with the channel, or wish they grew up with it on social media. The comments you see right here, they're actually from people who actually grew up with the channel. Heck, even when Netflix, a company that is so tight on what content gets allowed by the way, added a bunch of the channel's most iconic black comedy shows as a US exclusive, UK subscribers actually demanded that the shows were to be put on the UK strand, once again comparing it to the channel, showing that the channel still actually had its fans 24 years since it premiered. Maybe they didn't outgrow Trouble. Maybe the company who owned Trouble was wrong about them growing up.
In conclusion, Trouble was a channel that was present around the start of the digital TV uprising and couldn't keep up with the market that led to its own demise. Could the channel ever make a return? Most likely, no, because FlexTech as a whole is dead and has been absorbed by the overlords at Sky, which led to most of the programming having to be shared on different channels across Sky's EPG. Even The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air has been starting to air on Sky's Showcase as of recent. But for what Trouble set out to do across its 12-year life cycle has not been truly forgotten within the hearts and minds of people who grew up watching the channel. But hey, at least Trouble stayed true to itself before becoming a time shift channel for living. Still sucks though.